7,300 days. That's exactly 20 years of your life. I want you to think about something for a second. How many of those days did you actually choose? Not the ones that were handed to you, not the ones that were expected of you, the ones you actually truly chose for yourself. Because when I asked myself that question for the first time, the answer terrified me. And everything I'm about to tell you starts from that moment. My 20th birthday. That's where it all really began. And even though it wasn't just one day, something about turning 20 forced all those unanswered questions I had been carrying for years to finally come to the surface. So right in 2021, the idea that I'd been stuck in my own mental cave hit me as hard as it ever could. But the frame didn't just hit me, it actually made me aware. Aware of something I missed for a long time. The cave had a way out I couldn't see until that very moment. Right there, the cave wasn't a comfortable and predictable place any longer. It had become a castle where I was the only prisoner. So everything finally felt right, although scary. But how did I even get to that conclusion? The truth is, growing up, my curiosity for everything outside my bubble kept getting bigger. And I know, who isn't curious while growing up, right? But mine felt different, almost like a responsibility I had towards myself. Something that kept pushing me to question the cave before I even knew it was one. And over time, those questions became my compass. So when the moment finally came to choose, the direction was already clear. Getting there was a whole different story though. But here's what the cave actually does to you. It doesn't trap you all at once. It just gets more comfortable over time. And the more comfortable it gets, the less you even think about what's outside. That's the real danger of it. So right as I turned 20, I forced myself to look what was ahead. Follow the known route or go off the beaten path and make my own. I chose the second one. And honestly, I had no idea what I was getting into. The thing is, back then I had a lot of preconceptions and ideas of the world that made me feel fearful about stepping up to my dreams and true ideals. For instance, it took me quite literally years of pain and struggle to muster up all I had inside of me to reach that very moment. But that wasn't even enough, because throughout it all, the closest people to me turned into obstacles. At school, I hear my friends talking about my vision almost as if it was a far-fetched dream. While at home, my parents had a different journey in mind for me. But it wasn't just a journey, but a path they had already walked on and that most likely worked for them. So that wasn't my path, nor what I wanted or needed for my life. And as if things didn't seem too hard already, I set out to make a promise in 2020. My promise was simple. Give yourself 1 year's time to muster up all the resources needed to take my leap of faith and walk out of the cave by moving to California from my small hometown in Italy. And here's why I'm telling you all of this. I want you to see that sometimes the escape route is much closer than we think. And I'd even argue that sometimes we see it. We recognize its presence and deep down we know how much it can change our journey. So right there we have our own chance to take our life where we want it. Sadly, though, we almost never do. But if we actually decided to risk it all for this eye-opening experience, we'd see that all the fear, doubt, uncertainty would probably still be there, at least at the beginning. But there would be a huge difference, because now we're facing what reality looks like. My reality in 2021 led me to chase my dream and probably biggest bet. That year, by summertime, I had worked for 12 months straight to save up for my one-way trip. But not only that, because I had to learn English from scratch, as I couldn't put more than a few sentences together when I was in high school. So I wasn't just facing financial and physical uncertainty, but even intellectual. In fact, I could never go and live in a new country without being able to communicate and relate to people. But there was just one more challenge adding up to the long list of problems I already had. So at that point, I thought that by solving my financial situation, learning the language, and planning out my life in a place I'd never been before, I'd be good to go. Yet, I was wrong. Because during the whole trip planning process, I ended up almost running out of money. But that wasn't even the biggest worry of mine. In fact, I was so desperate for a room in Santa Barbara, I didn't know what to come up with anymore. So that was a few weeks away from this life-changing decision. And yeah, I had already paid for the first semester of college and my flight too. But let me tell you that things never looked as messy as those weeks. So giving up would have definitely been much faster and easier than everything done by that point. Still, I couldn't take no as an answer. But at that point, risking it all wasn't enough anymore. So I just had to be faithful that all the tears and sweat would eventually pay off. and believed that by some miracle I could get to LA and make the most out of the 2K I had been left with. Eventually, my belief, my conviction, and honestly at that point, pure delusion, struck their first actual win. I'd finally locked in a small share room in California, and right there, a new light shed upon my life. And when on June 23rd, 2021, I got on my one-way flight to LA, everything changed for me. So the first part of my vision had come true, and my master plan was on. But this time, I was the one pulling the strings. And as I was watching the sunset in SB and breathing the Pacific Ocean through my nostrils, I knew I was finally aligned with my purpose and journey. I was in college by the beach, just found a job right before running out of money, and I could see my future unfolding before my eyes really fast. So 5 years later, I traveled all over the world across multiple continents and countries, built businesses starting from a couch flipping side hustle that helped me pay off my college bills, all the way to a social media management startup, met fantastic human beings, and experienced the full spectrum of life. And instead of going to university in Italy and living someone else's life I would have hated, I chose to step out of the cave, plan it all, and chase my dreams and beliefs. There's something really important I didn't tell you though. The cave has been around for a long time. Plato wrote about this more than 2,000 years ago. And honestly, his words still hit. Could he have ever imagined that? I like to think he knew. He knew that we could get easily trapped into the reality that the people around us feed us. And I think he was right, because the cave was never really about a place. It was about a choice. So take these words with you and try to find not your way out of the cave, but your way into the reality you actually want to live in. The cave will always be there, but here's what I know for sure. So will the exit. And the only thing that ever really led me to mine was staying curious enough to keep asking what was outside of it. That's it. That's really all it was. And whether you're still in your cave or you've already started walking out, there are some things I really wish I had known before I did. I put them all in this video right here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.